Good morning. I am so glad to see you all here. I'm George Hopper, the Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and we're really pleased to have you here this morning to participate in the Charles Lindley lecture. But before I have a chance to introduce our speaker, I wanted to pay a special recognition to something else that's going on here on campus. It's the Mississippi Youth Institute. It's a part of the World Food Prize, and we have some very special guests here today that have participated in sharing with us some of their ideas about solving this world crisis that we all are aware of, that is global food insecurity and hunger. And you're going to hear more about that from our speaker today, but I wanted to recognize our 2018 class of the Norman Borlaug Scholars. They're high school students from across the state of Mississippi. Their teachers and mentors are here. Would you stand and be recognized, please? Thank you for being here, future leaders in our society solving important problems. This morning it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Beady as our Charles Lindley Lecture keynote speaker for the year. Dr. Lindley was the Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences from 1970 to 1990. And Dean Lindley established a memorial to allow us to have a lecture series in the spring every year and look at a variety of issues and problems associated with agriculture and life sciences. This year, our keynote speaker is Dr. Charles Beady. He's the CEO of the Mississippi Food Network. Dr. Beady assumed that position in August of 2014, and he is the fifth CEO of the Food Network since it was founded in 1984. They have an 80,000 square foot Jackson-based facility. It's the state's only Feeding America affiliated food bank. Dr. Beady has a bachelor's degree in advertising, a master's degree in urban and counseling, and a doctoral degree in counseling education, all from the MSU up north, we refer to as Michigan State University. And he's been a postdoctoral research fellow at the Johns Hopkins University, a senior research scientist at the Institute for Urban Research at Morgan State University, a research affiliate at the Center for Social Organization of Schools at Johns Hopkins. I also want to recognize his wife, Dr. Helen Beady. Helen is a 1998 graduate of Mississippi State University. Her doctorate degree in the College of Education. They reside in Madison, Mississippi. Please help me welcome Dr. Charles Beady. He'll be talking today about Mississippi, the hungriest state in the nation. Dr. Charles Beady.
Thank you, Dean Harper. I learned a long time, I've given a lot of presentations, and I learned a long time ago that if you want to get intimidated as a speaker, just get up behind a bunch of kids or animals. And you will be intimidated. That was the most fantastic presentation, young people, I've heard in a long time, and I'll try not to be intimidated. But it is a particular pleasure to be here this morning. So I say good morning, and I'd like to begin my presentation by thanking Dr. Scott Willard, not Willard Scott, Scott Willard, for the invitation to serve as the Charles Lindley Leadership Lecturer and Agriculture Lecture this year. I was honored to have received the invitation and more than happy to accept it. And on a personal note, I'm pleased to be back on a campus where my wife received her doctorate a few years ago, darling. Okay. And on the campus where my nephew, Eric Lucas, stand up, Eric, so people can see you. Eric is about to finish up his freshman year.
No,
Sophomore year. Okay, sorry about that, Eric. With hopes and dreams of becoming a physician, going to medical school after leaving MSU. And then we have a niece here, Hannah. Hannah's up in Philadelphia someplace with some project that the university is sponsoring, and she wants to become a dermatologist. The title of my presentation this morning is Mississippi, the Hungriest State in the Nation. If I had added a subtitle, it would probably be the role of Mississippi Food Network in addressing the problem of hunger in our great state. Let me also begin by telling you a little bit more about how I ended up coming to Mississippi Food Network. My professional experience includes teaching, research, and administration at the university level, Michigan State, the other MSU, and then another MSU, Morgan State University, where I served as a researcher and assistant professor of education. And then I spent some time as an administrator down at Alcorn State University in South Mississippi. And as was mentioned earlier, I did a year of postdoctoral research at the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. And then I served as president for 20 years as head of the nation's largest historically black boarding school. Some of you may have heard of the Piney Woods Country Life School, founded in 1909, over 109 years ago, located just 20 miles south of Jackson on Highway 49. I've also been Vice President of Institutional Advancement for the Foundation for Independent Higher Education, FIHE, in Washington, D.C. I was president of the neighborhood school in Memphis, Tennessee, which was a K-8 school with a boarding component. I was particularly attracted to the fact that it had a boarding component, and I also served as executive or associate director in organizations that support individuals with developmental disabilities and their families. Helen and I moved off the mainland United States in 2010 to the United States Virgin Islands. So prior to moving back to Mississippi in 2014, for 4 years I was the associate director of the Virgin Island University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, VIU SED. I ran the office on St. Croix. When we came back to Mississippi from the Virgin Islands, I was regularly asked, why would you leave America's paradise to come back to Mississippi? My response was always threefold. First, I truly, truly enjoyed living in the Virgin Islands, but as Dorothy showed us in The Wizard of Oz, there is no place like home. And Mississippi is home for me. Secondly, the thought of working in an organization with a mission of eliminating hunger in my adopted state was very appealing to me. And I learned during the interview session that the board was looking for someone with significant nonprofit administration and fundraising experience. I felt I had a real good chance of getting this job. Finally, this job had my name on it. My wife and I are prayer warriors, and when I learned about the possibility of employment at Mississippi Food Network, we prayed for the job with my name on it. And when I saw that Mississippi Food Network was located on Beady Street, spelled a little different but pronounced the same, I told her I was confident that we'd be moving back to mainland real soon and that she could start packing. So I was offered that job as CEO in July of 2014 and started in August. I've had the privilege of having two once-in-a-lifetime jobs. the one at Piney Woods and the one here now at Mississippi Food Network, and I'm certainly grateful for that. So what is a food bank? A food bank is a nonprofit charitable organization that collects, warehouses, and distributes purchased and donated food to those who are hungry and food insecure. Mississippi is one of some 200 food banks in the Feeding America network of food banks. Feeding America is the largest organization of its kind in the United States of America, with the mission of eliminating hunger in this country. This is a shot of the Feeding the Gulf Coast Food Bank in Theodore, Alabama. Alabama has 4 or 5 food banks in its geographic boundaries. This is a shot of the food bank in the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is a shot of the food bank in Houston, Texas. Some of these places are palatial. Houston, for instance, has a 308,000 square foot warehouse. They distributed 96 million pounds of food last year. They have a budget of $27.5 million. They employ over 180 people. They have 34 trucks, 3 vans. They're delivering food over 18 counties. The food bank in Chicago has a $32 million budget. They're in one big county. They distributed 67 million pounds of food last year. And the one in Atlanta is huge also. 55 million pounds distributed, $22.9 million budget. This is a shot of the food bank in Memphis, Tennessee, and they interestingly serve a part of Mississippi for one of our programs. I won't get into that right now. It's complicated how that's set up, but we're grateful for them for their partnership in helping us out. Just a little Feeding America history. In the late 1960s, John Van Hagel, that's him on the phone there, a retired businessman in Phoenix, Arizona, began volunteering at a local soup kitchen and began soliciting food donations for the kitchen. He ended up with more food than the kitchen could use. And one day while volunteering, he met a young mother who told him that she relied on soup kitchens and discarded items from the local grocery store's garbage bins to feed her family. She told him that the food quality was fine, and she wondered why there was not a place where unwanted food could be stored and later accessed by people who needed it, much like banks store money. After that encounter, Van Hagel began to actively solicit unwanted food from grocery stores, local gardens, and nearby produce farms. And his effort led to the creation of the St. Mary's Food Bank, which is the nation's first food bank in Phoenix, Arizona. It's another shot here of the inside of that St. Mary's Food Bank and volunteers packing up food to distribute to those who need it. In 1975, St. Mary's received a federal grant to assist in developing food banks across the United States. In 1976, this effort became known as America's Second Harvest. In 2001, Second Harvest merged with Food Chain, which at the time was the nation's largest food rescue operation. In September of 2008, the organization name was changed to Feeding America. There is now at least one food bank in nearly every state of the Union. The District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Helen and I were in Puerto Rico just before that storm hit, by the way, and they're still devastated down there. If you can recognize where Wyoming and Colorado are on the map, The Wyoming is served by the food bank in northern Colorado. Many states have several food banks, as you can see by the dots on the map, and Mississippi is one of 15 states that only has one food bank physically located in the state of Mississippi. We are it on Beady Street in South Jackson. So how a food bank works, who can make a deposit in the food bank? You can. You can bring in food from whatever organization that you belong to or you're a part of. Schools and businesses hold food drives for us. The kids at Madison Central, just north of Jackson, collected 4 tractor-trailer loads of canned foods and dry goods for us. That's almost 40,000 pounds per truck. That 4, 8, 12, 160,000 pounds of food, and we're grateful for that. And then it comes also from the farmers across the United States through USDA, food manufacturers, Kellogg, Uncle Ben's, where my wife used to work, and grocery stores around the United States. So that food is deposited, so to speak, at the food bank, and then it's distributed, and it goes to food pantries, soup kitchens, daycare centers, human service programs, youth programs, senior citizen programs, shelter programs, disaster relief programs. And disaster relief, as you know, has been a big issue around the United States and the territories, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, because of the disasters that hit us during the year. A little bit about Mississippi Food Network in terms of its history fact. In 1983, a group of concerned citizens met to discuss the need for a food bank with adequate warehouse space here in Mississippi. And that meeting resulted in the founding of Mississippi School Network. And as the dean mentioned earlier, I am the 5th CEO or executive director since the founding in 1984. So when our food bank opened its doors in April of 1984, it had 37 donors, 8 member agencies, and 2,300 pounds of food stored in a 4,000 square foot warehouse in a converted church and abandoned fire station. Today, Mississippi Food Network's 2 warehouses on Beady Street has 80,000 square feet of storage space. We're located in South Central Jackson, and we are the only Feeding America affiliated food bank located in the state of Mississippi. Here's another shot of our main warehouse, and then this is the annex across the street. Our mission is to relieve poverty-related hunger in the state of Mississippi by distributing donated and purchased food and grocery products through a network of 430 agencies. We have 430 member churches and nonprofit organizations through which we distribute the food. And we provide nutrition education to our needy clients, and we also emphasize advocacy and related needs. A couple of definitions that you should be familiar with, and some of you probably are, if you're concerned about hunger in the state of Mississippi. The first one is food insecurity. As defined by USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, is a lack of access to enough food to be healthy rather, and active. The state of not knowing how you might get your next meal. The state of not knowing how you might get your next meal. The state of not knowing how you might get your next meal. The next term is food desert. The USDA defines a food desert as an area with a poverty rate of greater than 20%, a poverty rate of greater than 20%, and more than 33%, a third, more than 33% of the population living over a mile from the nearest grocery store. Nearly 600,000 people live in food deserts in Mississippi. Nearly 600,000 people live in food deserts in Mississippi. Food deserts don't just exist in the Mississippi Delta. A lot of people think food desert is associated with Mississippi Delta. There are, for instance, 19 census tracts in Jackson, Mississippi, our state capital, that are identified as food deserts. Our state capital, 19 census tracts that are identified as food deserts. That represents the majority of our capital city. So why is Mississippi Food Network so important to our state? An analysis of hunger data by Bread for the World, a non-Christian citizens movement in the United States that was established to end hunger, revealed the 10 hungriest states in the country. Based on data from 2016, the 10 hungriest states in the United States, in order, beginning with the hungriest, are Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama and Kentucky are tied, Ohio and Oregon are tied, North Carolina, Maine, and Oklahoma. Mississippi is the hungriest state in the nation. Statistically speaking, there's certainly more people in New York that are hungry than there are in Mississippi, but proportionately, at that 20.8% of our 2.9 million population, Mississippi is the hungriest state in the nation. Mississippi population, as I just mentioned, is 2.9 million. According to the last census report, Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States, with 695,915 people living below the poverty line. Feeding America research, I just talked to you about Feeding America, our national partner, tells us that there are 600,000 people in the state who are hungry or food insecure, not necessarily knowing when or how they might get their next meal. That includes over 220,000 children and some 100,000 senior citizens. Over half of those in Mississippi who are hungry and food insecure are among the most vulnerable of our population, our children and our seniors. Our day-to-day goal at Mississippi Food Network is to get as many pounds of food to the individuals who make up the 600,000 people in the state of Mississippi who are hungry and food insecure as we can. Feeding America asks that we try to get at least 90 pounds of food to everybody who's hungry and food insecure in the state of Mississippi. So when you multiply 90 times 600,000, you come up with what? 54 million pounds of food they're asking us to get to those who are hungry and food insecure in the state of Mississippi. Last year, we delivered 21 million pounds of food, 21,401,743 pounds, 21.4 million pounds we delivered through Mississippi Food Network around the state of Mississippi to those who need it. When you multiply 21.4 million times $1.72, $1.72 is the amount that we get from our national partner, Feeding America, as the cost of a meal. That represents some $36.8 million worth of food that we distributed around the state. Young people, I hope this is resonating with you based on the presentations that you made this morning and hunger in the different countries that you talked about, and you compare that to what's going on in the state of Mississippi. Last year, we distributed 21.4 million pounds to some of the 600,000 people in the state of Mississippi who are hungry and food insecure. And we deliver that food through the 430 agencies that make up our network. Feeding America has a network of some 200 food banks around the United States. We have a network at Mississippi Food Network of some 430 agencies that we deliver the food through to our member churches, food pantries, soup kitchens, and other nonprofit organizations. So how does Mississippi Food Network distribute food so far and to so many? If an agency is located, I just mentioned 430 agencies. If an agency is located not more than 75 miles from our warehouses, they'll come with their vans and pickup trucks and school buses and pick up the food, and that they order online. We just implemented Agency Express, where our food pantries, soup kitchens, and whatnot can order online. And I said order, and I put that in parentheses. We can't sell food to anybody. We don't sell it. But we can charge what we call a maintenance fee, and you can get 5,000 or 6,000 pounds of food at 19 cents a pound. That's not a bad deal. If the agency is located outside of that 75-mile radius, we'll load up our tractor trailers and carry the food that they order to a drop-off point where agencies in the area then come pick up the food. I just saw Joe Smith in your, where are you, Joe? Joe's around, oh, there you are. We have a number of, several agencies up here in the Starkville area where Frank, you know Frank, gets in his truck, brings it up here to the drop-off point, and then the agencies in the area come pick up the food and take it back to their respective community. Hey, where is Susan? Oh, there you are. Oh, I met you the last time I was up here. How you doing? All right. We get food from the Mississippi Department of Human Services and the Mississippi Department of Health. We also get food and grocery products from manufacturers and wholesale distributors nationally. We raise funds to purchase food. Individuals, as I mentioned earlier, hold food drives for us. Stores like Sam's, Walmart, and Kroger donate millions of pounds of food to us each year. And without those contributions, we couldn't do what we do. Our funding, we have a $3.6 million budget. Now, I just mentioned Houston and Atlanta and places like that with $37, $22 million budgets. Our budget is $3.6 million. The budget I told you about in Chicago, about $37 million. I'm trying to give you a comparison here. We're in a low-resource state. We got $3.6 million. We got 29 people who work for us. We got 2 tractor trailers, a 24-footer and a 14-footer that we distribute all this food through. All I'm saying is that anytime I get the opportunity to get in front of a group of people, I talk about the help that we need at Mississippi Food Network. So when you all go out and get rich and have a few dollars burn in your pocket, don't forget to send some to your alma mater, Mississippi State University, and then the rest of it you can send to Mississippi Food Network. But here is an example of a check we just got from recently from Enterprise. They gave us a check for over $35,000. They were impressed with the work that we were doing, and we certainly thank them for that, along with the other people who contribute to the work that we do. Our programs include the Emergency Food Assistance Program, a federal program that helps supplement the diet of low-income Mississippi citizens. That's TFAP. We refer to it as TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program. Our Commodity Supplemental Food, we use a lot of acronyms, and I don't expect you to remember those, but I'm just throwing them out. We use our Commodity Supplemental Food Program, or CSFP, provide 30-pound boxes of food to 12,503 senior citizens every month. 12,503 every month. So if there are 100,000 senior citizens in the state of Mississippi who need help, and we're providing help to 12,503 of them, you do the math. That's a big gap, and you understand that there's a big gap in terms of what we're providing and what is needed, particularly among our senior citizens. Our child feeding programs have 14 after-school sites around the state. Last year, we provided 45,209 snacks and 10,362 suppers to needy students around the state of Mississippi. Last year, our backpack program provided meals to 2,600 children to carry home at the end of each school week. I'm going back to the presentations that I heard this morning, there are more students in the state of Mississippi who only get wholesome meals at the schools they attend than you might care to imagine. Our summer feeding program, we have sites in 17 counties that serve more than 47,000 meals to children during the summer. Going back to that notion of a lot of our children only get healthy meals in the schools that they attend, well, school closes down during the summer, and a lot of them don't get healthy meals. So we kind of bridged that gap, and last summer we fed over 47,000 meals to the children during our summer months. My wife and her brother started a little foundation in her hometown, Cleveland, Mississippi, that we're pleased to be able to help the students in Cleveland benefit over the summer and get some help and nutritious meals over the summer in Cleveland, Mississippi. You might recognize those colors. Our programs include nutrition education at food serving sites and to clients and our member agencies. This photo is one of Mississippi State students, the DMSU, from the School of Agriculture, Department of Nutrition's Students Dietetics Association. Last year we had a school pantry program in Starkville for the Starkville School District housed at First United Methodist Church. Every month for 2 years, the students from the Student Dietetics Association here on campus would prepare meals from the foods that we were offering that month. That program is now defunct, but we do have a backpack program, Joe, here in Starkville, sponsored by the First United Methodist Church and the Junior Auxiliary. They sponsor the programs at Overstreet Elementary, Henderson Ward, Stewart Elementary, and Armstrong Middle School. We have a volunteer program that runs September through May on the second Saturday of each month. Those Saturday mornings are a veritable bouquet, a human bouquet of individuals. Volunteers show up like clockwork. They come from all walks of life, different groups and clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, book reading clubs, motorcycle clubs, and they show up regularly too. Church groups. Last year, volunteers gave us over 16,000 hours. We appreciate that because if we had to pay for it, we would have to pay for it. And we don't have to pay for it, so we're grateful for that. So how then is Mississippi Food Network impacting hunger and food insecurity and healthy eating in our great state? As a requirement for membership in the Feeding America network of food banks, an integral part of our mission is to educate the people we serve regarding the benefits of healthy eating. And this is a photo of our dietitian and program managers. Joe, you might recognize Catherine Montgomery over there, teaching a couple of interns how to prepare meals using USDA food that our agencies distribute to those in need. Another shot, our dietitian spends the majority of her time teaching and demonstrating healthy eating habits and how to prepare healthy meals. It's our dietitian on your right. We do not judge the people we serve. We do not place the blame on the people we serve for the conditions that they suffer. But rather we look at the food-related social systems, going back to your presentations again, young people, the food-related social systems that are in place to serve them and do what is within our power to rectify the inequities like you will be doing one day in those systems in order to bring about needed changes. And those needed changes include a Mississippi where no child goes to bed hungry at night, where programs and systems are in place that encourage healthy eating and healthy lifestyle habits. And every citizen has the information and supports needed to make choices that can lead to better life outcomes for themselves and those they love. This includes many college and university students on campuses across our nation. May be surprised to hear that. Recent studies have shown that many college and university students, particularly those from poor backgrounds, don't always know how or when they might get their next meal. What's that called? Food insecurity on college campuses across the United States of America. The 2016 Hunger on Campus survey of students at 34 schools in 12 states showed that of students with meal plans, 43% still experience food insecurity. Now, I'm not sure what plans, if any, Mississippi State has for opening a food pantry for students, but there's one at Ole Miss, the Ole Miss Food Bank. There's one at the University of Southern Mississippi on the Southern Mississippi campus called the Eagle's Nest. I met recently with Mrs. Deborah Bynum, who is the wife of the President, Dr. William Bynum at Jackson State University. Met with her to discuss the possibility of opening a food pantry in conjunction with the career closet that she established to provide professional attire to Jackson State University students who are in need of professional clothing for job interviews and to wear at various functions while representing Jackson State University. And she looks like she's going ahead with opening up a food pantry at the Jackson State University campus. Hunger in Mississippi has many faces. Many faces. Seniors, the young, struggling mothers, mothers-to-be. They're white. They're black. And you don't have to be poor in the traditional sense of being poor to not know how or when you might get your next meal. Losing a spouse, losing a job that can put you in a situation where you need help. And that's all a part and parcel of why we exist at Mississippi Food Network, to provide the safety net to those who are poor, those who are hungry, those who are in need. That's my presentation, and I thank you for listening. I guess we're going to entertain any questions that anybody might have.
We've got a few minutes. Does someone have a question or two for Dr. Beady? I'm here.
It seems like the Food Network is an intervention into the system, but what are some of the contributing factors, like the major contributing factors within the system that causes hunger in the first place, or why are people hungry in the first place?
We're in a low-resource state, and as the young people I heard this morning said, one of the primary contributors to hunger and food insecurity is probably lack of education. Those are probably the two best answers that I can give to you. People, I mean, I was well into my being grown before I understood the relationship between calories and weight gain and eating the wrong stuff. Not only is Mississippi the hungriest state in the nation, the poorest state in the nation, we're also the fattest state in the nation. That sounds like an oxymoron. How can you be hungry and fat at the same time? Well, if you eat junk all the time, who was I talking to about junk food this morning? Eat junk all the time, then that contributes to it. So just a bunch of systemic factors, not to mention the fact that certain zip codes will determine whether or not you're healthy and whether or not you're hungry. Helen?
I'd like to also make a comment, and that's an excellent question. I think a lot of this stems from the social determinants of health, where people live, where your zip code can actually determine your health. So when we start to talk about food insecurity, you know, it's the conditions in which an individual lives. I am from the Mississippi Delta, and certainly we know that we're the most food insecure in the Delta. I'm actually working on some projects in the Delta right now with my work as well. But we know that we don't grow anything in the Delta that people can eat. We import 90% of the fresh fruits and vegetables that people have to consume in the state of Mississippi, I think. And because we export 90% of the grain that's used everywhere else. So I think in support of those things that Dr. Beady mentioned, it's definitely zip codes matter, but it's around the social determinants of health. Because health is where you live, where you work, where you play, where you worship, and all of those things as well.
And we have a long history of discrimination in the state of Mississippi. I mean, you don't look past that, and people still trying to catch up. Yes, ma'am. Okay, let's go here and then there. I wear hearing aids. You got to be loud.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, Feed America claims that 30% of food insecure households have type 2 diabetes or a member living with type 2 diabetes. So in terms of prevention and treatment of diet-related diseases, what role does Mississippi Food Network play in advocating for the role of nutrition?
One of the things that contributes to diabetes is the fact that people aren't eating healthy. Helen and I lived in the Virgin Islands for 3 years, I mentioned, 4 years before coming back here. Diabetes is just as bad, if not worse, in the Virgin Islands as it is in the state of Mississippi. It's worse in the state of Mississippi than it is in many places around the United States of America, and that comes with the lack of healthy eating. One of the things that we're concerned with as a food bank and as a member of the Feeding America network of food banks in the United States is that we're charged with getting healthy foods to the extent that we can to the people we serve. So we're always trying to get healthy meals out to the folks that we serve.
Yeah. One more question.
One more question?
Nearly 50 years ago, my mother became an FNEP agent, the Extension Food and Nutrition Education Program, where she went out and the government gave her commodities. There was no food bank. The government gave her commodities, and she went into foreign homes. She took me with her and taught them how to cook nutritious meals in exchange for they would get regular commodities. FNEP is still here in this state, I have learned, and it's still alive. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not familiar with that, but that's what we do also. Our dietitian is around with our 430 agencies around the state. I never see her. She's always busy out trying to teach people how to prepare healthy meals from the food that we send to them. So it's good to hear that.
You might look for the resource because it's here at Mississippi State University, the FNEP NEP program. They're a wealth of knowledge and volunteerism.
Now, we're the only food bank in the state, physically located in the state, but we're not the only organization that's trying to do something about hunger in the state of Mississippi. We partner with a number of other organizations. Gleaners is one that I remember. There's one down in Hattiesburg. There are a lot of folks out here trying to address that issue. We just happen to be the food bank affiliated with Feeding America. Thank you all.
I think Dr. Beady did a great job of creating awareness among us about a very, very serious problem. And let's thank him again for his work.
Thank you. Thank you.